and welcome to The Nurses. Today we will be talking about diabetes type 1.
Diabetes type 1 is the destruction of beta cells in the pancreas.
In normal homeostasis, blood glucose levels rise, causing the beta cells in the pancreas to produce insulin. This allows the transport of glucose into cells for energy. In diabetes, however, homeostasis is affected by inhibiting the feedback loop of glucose regulation. There's no insulin to let glucose into the cells, so sugar builds up in your bloodstream where it can cause life-threatening complications. Proteins. Insulin is a protein and a hormone, and there are other proteins which are involved in the cell membrane. There are receptors on cells for insulin, which are protein receptors, and there are 4 glucose transporters, 3 of which are present in cell membranes at all times and constantly containing glucose. These are found in the blood and brain barrier, the liver, and the neurons. And the final one, the GLUT4 transporter, is the main transporter affected by diabetes, and it is found in the muscle and adipose tissue.
Insulin in normal bodies counteracts glucagon action and suppresses glucose production in the liver, but without insulin, glucagon will keep acting. In diabetes type 1, T lymphocytes kill the beta cells, and cytokines are produced, and they attract other inflammatory cells like macrophages to the area. B cells produce antibodies against beta cells, and eventually the pancreas will be destroyed. It is then unable to produce insulin and unable to transport glucose into muscle and fat cells. The amount of glucose in the blood rises, and there's an overproduction of glucagon, which helps break down glucose from glycogen in the liver. Blood glucose increases more, and glucose peaks, and then it can't get absorbed into the plasma and gets released in urine. This increases osmotic pressure, and there's a loss of more fluids, which leads to dehydration. Glucose will bind and alter certain proteins like hemoglobin.
In type 1a diabetes, beta cells are destroyed by the immune system. Possible causation includes inheritance, an environmental triggering event, and a T lymphocyte-mediated hypersensitivity reaction against a beta cell antigen. There are MHC genes on chromosome 6 that encode for the human leukocyte antigens DQ and DR that evidence focuses on. Chromosome 11 holds an insulin gene that regulates beta cell replication and function that is focused on as well. And finally, viruses and infections are supposed to be one of the causes as well. In type 1b diabetes, beta cells are also destroyed, but there is no evidence of autoimmunity. It is much less common, it is also inherited, but other than that, the causation is unknown.
Risk factors. Genetics, family history, age, geography. Studies have shown that populations in northern climates, especially during winter, are at higher risk for this disease more than those in southern climates. Other autoimmune conditions. There are other autoimmune disorders which share the HLA complex, and it is suggested that if you have one of these disorders, you may have a slightly higher risk for developing diabetes type 1.
Symptoms of diabetes type 1. Increased thirst, increased urination, increased hunger, unintentional weight loss, bedwetting in children who previously didn't do so, mood changes, fatigue and weakness, and vision issues.
Diabetes affects the immune system by destroying pancreatic beta cells, which leads to a deficit in insulin, and this leads to multiple other problems.
It affects the endocrine system because one of the major symptoms is excessive thirst, which indicates that the pituitary gland is working too hard to keep up with the increased levels of blood glucose. And when the pancreas dysfunctions or something within it isn't functioning properly, insulin production ceases, leading to diabetes type 1.